This city should not exist. It is 36 AD, and before the sun reaches the canyon floor, Petra is already awake behind stone. Not the Petra of postcards, not the Petra of ruins and tourist silence. This is Rakhmu at full power, the living heart of the Nabataean kingdom, hidden inside a landscape that seems designed to kill ambition. Everything about this place feels wrong. The mountains are dry, the earth is red and broken, rain is scarce. Distance is brutal, and yet, somewhere beyond these cliffs, an ancient city has learned not merely how to survive, but how to turn survival into power. Wealth flows here. Water flows here. Diplomats, caravans, priests, merchants, spies, and envoys all pass through here. Even Rome watches this desert capital with caution. Because Petra is not rich by accident. It sits at the edge of the impossible and profits from everyone who fears crossing it. It controls movement through stone, trade through scarcity, and influence through spectacle. To outsiders, it appears like a miracle. To the people who built it, it is something colder than that. It is discipline, it is engineering, it is patience sharpened into authority. By night, Petra can feel almost unreal, as if the city were cut from the mountain by myth. But dawn reveals a harsher truth. Nothing here was granted. Every drop of water was trapped. Every road was secured. Every alliance was calculated. Every display of beauty served a purpose. In a few moments, the first light will enter the narrow gorge and strike the carved face of the city. What waits beyond that darkness is not a monument to the dead. It is a kingdom at its most dangerous. A wealthy, elegant, exposed to empire, and utterly determined to remain in control. And as the canyon begins to glow, Petra prepares to show you how power is made in the desert. You enter Petra the way strangers are meant to enter it, through pressure, shadow, and doubt. The Sikh is not a road, it is a corridor of control. A narrow geological wound split through sandstone, twisting so tightly that the sky above becomes a thin blade of light. The walls rise on either side like sealed gates. Sound changes here. Footsteps echo longer, wind loses its freedom. Even breath feels measured. This is how Petra introduces itself. Not all at once, but by withholding. You move deeper into the gorge, and the city remains hidden with deliberate patience. That concealment matters. Petra does not reveal its power in the open desert where distance can dilute it. It compresses you first. It lets the stone close around you. It removes the horizon. It teaches your body the shape of confinement before offering release. And then, suddenly, the canyon loosens. Ahead, caught in the first violent wash of morning light, a facade erupts from the rock. The Khazneh does not appear like a building. It appears like a verdict. Columns, pediments, sculpted forms, all carved directly into the rose-red sandstone with a precision that feels almost too controlled for the landscape around it. The surface burns crimson as the sun strikes iron-rich stone. For a moment, it seems less constructed than summoned. This is the shock Petra intended. For merchants arriving from the desert, for envoys sent by rival courts, for travelers who had spent days under heat and dust, this first sight was more than beautiful. It was strategic. Petra wanted the first encounter to feel impossible. A city able to carve grandeur into living rock was a city with time, wealth, labor, and confidence to spare. But the Khazneh is not the whole truth. It is only the threshold. A mask of elegance placed at the mouth of something larger, wealthier, and far more disciplined than a traveler could guess in that first stunned silence. Because behind this theatrical reveal, the real Petra is already moving. Beyond the Khazneh, Petra opens not into a shrine of silence, but into a capital already in motion. The valley floor is beginning to fill with heat and sound. Sandaled feet strike packed earth. Pack animals groan under the weight of cargo. Servants carry baskets, ledgers, textiles, amphorae. Stone facades rise from the basin in ordered layers. Tomb fronts cut into cliffs, freestanding buildings, market spaces, courtyards, temples, workshops, residences of the wealthy. Nothing about the city feels accidental. Even surrounded by raw geology, Petra behaves like an instrument tuned for use. You are not looking at an isolated wonder. You are looking at a system. More than 10,000 people may live and work within this basin at the height of Nabataean power, and every morning the city must solve the same impossible equation. It must feed bodies, protect routes, manage storage, host foreign traders, regulate water, display status, and do all of it under a desert sky that offers no mercy to disorder. This is why Petra's beauty can be misleading. Visitors remember the carved stone. They remember the color of the cliffs. They remember the first shock of architecture emerging from rock. But power here does not begin with appearance. It begins with administration, with the unseen habits that keep a hostile landscape obedient. You can feel that hidden order everywhere, in the measured opening of stalls, in the timing of caravans, in the placement of cisterns, roads, and storage rooms, in the way elite houses sit apart from the noise while commercial streets absorb the strain of movement below. Petra does not merely contain trade. It organizes it, it directs it, it profits by making complexity look effortless. And beneath every visible transaction lies the same hard truth. This city lives by controlling what other people lack: water, passage, access, protection. That is the real architecture of Petra. And by mid-morning, the source of its astonishing wealth is already arriving from the desert. By mid-morning, Petra smells like money. Not minted coin, not cut silver. Something older, stranger, and more powerful than that. The air in the trading quarter is thick with resin, leather, sweat, dust, and animal heat. Camels kneel under heavy loads. Handlers pull open sacks bound for inspection. Clerks record quantities with the calm precision of men who know that one caravan can carry the value of a small kingdom. This is the engine of Petra's fortune. From the southern reaches of Arabia come frankincense and myrrh, rare aromatics harvested far beyond the desert horizon, then carried north through punishing terrain where a single mistake can mean thirst, exposure, or disappearance. These substances are light enough to transport, precious enough to defend, and sacred enough to command extraordinary prices. Temples burn them. Elites desire them. Ritual economies depend on them. Entire systems of prestige and worship are fed by their scent. And Petra sits across the movement of that wealth like a hand across a throat. The Nabataeans do not own every source of these goods, and they do not rule every market that buys them. What they control is the most dangerous part, the passage between origin and demand. They know the terrain, they know the wells, they know the taming of desert travel, the conditions of survival, the cost of delay, the routes where caravans can move, and the routes where they vanish. In a world where geography kills the careless, that knowledge is worth more than force. This is why distant powers tolerate Petra's confidence. Rome may command armies, great cities may command ports, but desert trade obeys a different law. It belongs to those who can keep goods alive between emptiness and empire. And so Petra grows rich from what others cannot safely do for themselves. The wealth is visible everywhere now, in loaded warehouses, in guarded inventories, in the polished authority of officials who inspect goods without haste. But riches alone do not guarantee obedience. Wealth can inspire envy as easily as respect. To turn fortune into lasting power, Petra must do more than accumulate treasure. It must stage impossibility. And nowhere does it do that more brilliantly than with water. Petra's greatest display of power is not carved into stone. It moves without announcing itself. You hear it before you fully see it. A controlled trickle behind walls, the soft spill of channels cut into rock, the quiet proof that this city has done what the desert forbids. Petra receives little rain, and what does fall comes violently, in brief storms that can vanish as quickly as they arrive. For most settlements, that would mean vulnerability. Here, it becomes leverage. The Nabataeans have carved channels into cliff faces, built cisterns into the earth, guided runoff through gradients so precise they feel invisible, and turned seasonal danger into stored security. Water is collected, filtered, rationed, protected. It feeds households, workshops, animals, gardens, baths, and the steady pulse of urban life. But Petra does not stop at survival. At the height of its confidence, the city does something far more audacious. It exposes abundance. Open water glimmers under the sun. Pools and gardens appear where no pools and gardens should exist. Fountains cool the air. Shade and reflection soften the violence of the day. This is not extravagance for its own sake. It is theater with a message. Any visitor who stands before visible water in the middle of this red wilderness understands the meaning immediately. If Petra can command thirst, Petra can command terms. In other cities, luxury is measured in gold, marble, or imported silk. Here, luxury is the refusal to be dry. And beneath every pool, every channel, every hidden pipe lies the same cold intelligence that built the rest of the kingdom. Never fight the desert directly when you can force it to serve you instead. That is why Petra's hydraulic world feels almost secretive. The city does not advertise the full machinery beneath its streets and cliffs. It lets the effect speak first: coolness, greenery, confidence. Only later do you understand that every beautiful surface is resting on calculation. By afternoon, that intelligence will be tested in a place where water, wealth, and power become inseparable from politics. Aretas IV does not need to look like a conqueror to feel dangerous. By afternoon, the center of gravity in Petra shifts from trade to court. The noise of the markets falls behind you. Stone walls rise higher, movement slows, voices lower. Wealth is no longer stacked in cargo or measured in resin. It is translated into ceremony. Here, power becomes quiet. Officials wait in ordered stillness. Servants move with practiced restraint. Gifts from distant partners are arranged not as clutter, but as evidence. Worked silver, fine textiles, incense, carved vessels. Rare goods that have crossed deserts and borders to reach this room. Nothing is displayed casually. Every object says the same thing. Petra is connected. Petra is wealthy. Petra expects to be treated accordingly. And at the center of this controlled atmosphere stands Aretas IV. He rules without theatrical force. There is no need for it. His authority comes from something harder to challenge than noise: composure. He is the kind of ruler who understands that in a fragile region, survival belongs to whoever can remain unreadable the longest. Around him gather advisors, envoys, interpreters, and men whose faces reveal nothing unless permitted. The court is elegant, but it is not relaxed. Too much depends on appearances, because Petra's strength is not simple. It does not rest on raw military mass. It rests on position, revenue, water, alliances, and the ability to make larger powers hesitate before acting. Aretas knows exactly what kind of kingdom he governs. Rich enough to matter, exposed enough to be watched, strong enough to bargain, vulnerable enough to be careful, This is what makes the claim of the court so deceptive. Beneath the polished language and ritual courtesy lies constant calculation. One wrong move could threaten trade. One insult could reshape alliances. One marriage could become a border crisis. And in 36 AD, that last danger is no longer theoretical. The threat now gathering around Petra begins outwardly, as a private humiliation. A marriage has failed, but in royal politics there is no such thing as a purely personal insult. Aretas' daughter had been given to Herod Antipas, ruler of Galilee and Perea, in a union that carried more than domestic meaning. Marriages like this were instruments of stability. They softened borders, delayed conflict, and wrapped political necessity in the language of family. Then Antipas cast her aside. He chose another marriage, another alliance, another public message, and what might seem, from a distance, like court scandal lands in Petra as something far more serious: contempt. Not only for a daughter of the Nabataean king, but for the balance that marriage was supposed to preserve. Honor has been wounded. Diplomacy has been insulted. A line has been crossed in full view of the region. In lesser courts, rage might have answered immediately. Petra is more disciplined than that. No public outburst disturbs the dignity of the city. Trade continues. Audiences are held. Courtesies remain intact. But beneath that calm, the political temperature changes. Messages are weighed more carefully. Alliances are measured for weakness. Every report from the frontier matters more than it did the day before. That is how serious kingdoms prepare for retaliation. Aretas understands that revenge without timing is only self-destruction. Judea exists in the shadow of Rome, and any direct confrontation risks inviting the attention of a far greater power. So the insult must be answered without allowing Petra to appear reckless. The response must be shaped, not merely felt. This is where Petra's true strength becomes visible again. Not in a scream of anger, but in patience, in the ability to absorb humiliation, conceal intent, and choose the moment when injury can be turned into advantage. By now, the city no longer feels like a marvel carved into rock. It feels like a kingdom deciding whether to move. By late afternoon, Petra reveals another form of power. Not military strength, not diplomatic poise. Something quieter, but no less decisive. Dust. In the workshops and storerooms of the city, wealth becomes culture. Fine pottery dries in filtered light. Bowls are shaped so thin they seem to challenge the limits of the hand that made them. Painted surfaces carry delicate patterns with the confidence of a society that no longer lives only by endurance, but by refinement. Tools lie in ordered reach. Kilns breathe heat into clay. Artisans work with the concentration of people who understand that beauty, too, can travel across borders and speak on behalf of a kingdom. This matters more than it first appears. A poor frontier outpost can trade. A caravan station can survive. But only a mature capital turns commerce into aesthetic identity. Petra is doing exactly that. It is taking the wealth extracted from distance, risk, and scarcity, and converting it into objects that imply permanence, precision, restraint, sophistication. The message is unmistakable. This is not a temporary city feeding on passing caravans. This is a courtly world with standards. Even luxury here feels disciplined. Nothing is gaudy. Nothing spills beyond control. Elegance in Petra is severe, measured, almost political in its restraint. Imported influences are absorbed, not copied. Foreign styles arrive through trade, but they are filtered through Nabataean judgment until they become part of a local language of prestige. The city does not imitate empire. It proves that it can stand beside empire without surrendering itself to it. That may be Petra's most impressive achievement. It has taken the old instincts of desert survival and layered them beneath polish, ritual, and cultivated taste. Under the refined surface, the same hard intelligence remains. Beauty here is not softness, it is stability made visible. And when evening begins to cool the stone, that stability gathers in its most intimate form, the banquet table. As evening lowers itself over Petra, the city does not soften, it becomes more selective. The red cliffs darken into wine and violet. Heat withdraws from the stone. Lamps begin to breathe along carved walls and in elevated dining spaces overlooking the basin. Below, the city still moves, but more quietly now, as if its labor has passed upward into a different register of power. Here, among the elite, wealth is no longer counted. It is arranged. Guests recline on dyed cushions set against stone benches. Servants move between them with roasted meat, warm bread, dates, wine, oils, and imported spices that traveled the same dangerous routes that made Petra rich. Conversation is measured. Laughter exists, but never carelessly. Even pleasure carries etiquette, that restraint matters. In empires drunk on display, luxury often announces excess. In Petra, it announces control. The banquet is not an escape from the machinery of the kingdom. It is one of its finest instruments. Alliances are tested here. Status is observed here. Memory is shaped here. A ruler does not need to threaten openly when the room itself reminds every guest who provides abundance, safety, and order in a land built on scarcity. And yet beneath the polished ritual, something older remains. Petra may borrow forms from the wider world, but it has not surrendered its core. Desert values still sit at the table. Discipline, obligation, the belief that leadership is proved by provision, not ornament alone. That is why the atmosphere feels so distinct. The feast is elegant but never loose. Generosity is visible, but so is structure. Power here is intimate, not chaotic. As darkness deepens beyond the lamps, the city below begins to disappear into stone again. And in that gathering night, Petra turns from status to something even older than power. Night returns Petra to its first language, silence. The banquets fade behind stone walls. The lamps burn lower. Footsteps vanish into courtyards and cut stairways. Above the canyon, the sky narrows into a dark ribbon crowded with stars, and the city that seemed so commanding by day begins to feel secret again. But Petra is never truly asleep. Beneath the quiet, water still moves through hidden channels. Guards still watch the approaches. Priests still tend the sacred spaces. Even in darkness, the kingdom remains alert, as if it understands that power in the desert can only survive by listening harder than everyone else. You leave the lit rooms and move toward the high-carved places where Petra speaks to its gods. There are no crowded statues here, no forest of marble bodies, no easy human faces given to the divine. The sacred presence is harder, older, more severe than that. Rectangular stone blocks stand in niches cut into the cliffs, enduring forms that refuse a spectacle even while the rest of the city has mastered it. Incense burns at the altar. Smoke rises in a slow pale thread and disappears into the night air. In this stillness, devotion feels less like performance than recognition. Stone, endurance, height, and silence belong together. That is the hidden key to Petra. Its greatness was never only architectural, and it was never only commercial. The famous facades, the loaded caravans, the gardens, the pools, the polished court, the diplomatic caution before Rome, all of it rested on something deeper. A civilization trained to convert a vulnerability into structure. The desert gave the Nabataeans nothing freely. So they learned to trap water, regulate movement, read distance, and turn hardship into leverage. What outsiders called miracle was, from within, method. What looked like splendor was discipline wearing beauty as its outer skin. And yet even at this moment of command, the future is already waiting beyond the mountains. Trade can shift. Empires can redraw the map. Sea routes can steal what caravan roads once carried. A city that dominates one age can fall silent in another. Petra does not know the full shape of that ending tonight, but the possibility exists, faint as a crack beneath polished stone. That is what gives this hour its weight. You are not witnessing a beginning, you are witnessing a peak, and peaks are always more haunting when those who stand upon them still believe the ground beneath them will hold forever. That is why Petra matters. Not because it was mysterious and not because later centuries turned it into romantic ruin, but because for one charged stretch of history, it solved the impossible more intelligently than its rivals. It took scarcity and made it political. It took exposure and made it profitable. It took stone and made it ceremonial. It took silence and made it intimidating. Few cities have ever fused environment, engineering, ritual, and strategy so completely. Fewer still have done it while standing between worlds. Wealthy enough to tempt empire, disciplined enough to delay being swallowed by it. And when the night wind moves through the canyon, carrying the last trace of incense through the dark, Petra leaves you with its final lesson. It did not conquer the desert by escaping it. It conquered the desert by studying it, storing it, dividing it, and ruling through it. That is why this city should not exist. And that is why, for one brief and brilliant hour of history, it did, while greater empires still watched from a distance.